Developing a strong mindset entails consistent practice over prolonged periods of time. It requires a sense of practicality and discipline that is all too often forgotten. It would be a mistake to think that the law of attraction is easy, or that meditation will immediately alleviate depression. But if you seriously commit to developing your mindset so that you can focus on what you want over the long term, then the results will be life-changing. To do so, you will need to learn to rely on yourself. A theory based on another man's experience in matters of the psyche or of an inward life has no meaning at all. We have to let it go completely because we have to stand alone. The first step in understanding the mind is to realize that your thoughts are what determines your everyday experiences. This is the basic premise of all spiritual texts and esoteric schools of thought. It is also reflected in many scientific spheres, such as quantum mechanics. People have certain thought patterns that they picked up from the wider society, from their parents, from groups and organizations, etc. They then project these thought patterns onto their surroundings, and they then mistakenly believe that their own projections and interpretations are the truth. But the truth is different for everybody, depending on their particular thoughts. This is why here is so much diversity in the world today. A core component of spiritual growth lies in removing all of the thought patterns that we have picked up when we were young. These were just programmed into us. When we learn to remove and reinstall different thoughts and beliefs is when we start to come into our true autonomy, as masters over our minds. And this is partially why meditation is recommended across times and cultures. We are able to calmly observe our own thoughts patterns without reaction or involvement. This is one of the only ways that we can see things objectively. Otherwise, we tend to identify with our gender, political ideologies, nationality, or class. And we naturally see this as correct due to our limited life experience. People who do not understand the power of their own minds are largely lost, as they cannot identify as conscious creators of their own reality. They will consistently find fault with the world and ask why it is so difficult to contend with. Understanding the power of thoughts is the first step to personal mastery. From the perspective of spiritual systems, the mind is irrational, illogical, and insane. We are required to observe the mind and detach from it in order to see its dysfunction. But we can also observe this dysfunction on a grander scale with the wars, hate, environmental destruction, racism, sexism, homophobia, political attacks, broken relationships, government spying programs, smartphone addictions, health problems, and more. Something is a little dysfunctional with the human populace, and this is a result of millions of minds that are not in the right place. Social media and centralized media also serve to program these minds into a state of disempowerment and fear. And advertising also has quite a destructive effort as it encourages people to smoke cigarettes, drink alcohol, and consume sugar and caffeine. An important point to remember is that you are not immune to advertising even if you think you are. When you perceive something, it leaves a mental impression in your subconscious. So unless you switch off your TV and avoid going into a shop, you are a victim of advertising. 1. The mind cannot distinguish between real and imaginary. 2. 95% of your activity is subconscious. Try being consciously aware of every key you type on your computer. Your progress will be vastly reduced. Master your mind. 13.3. Your subconscious has stored everything that has ever happened to you, much like a gigantic computer. 4. We are bombarded with 2 million bits of data every second. It is the job of the subconscious to filter through all of this. 5. The conscious mind remembers between 5 to 9 pieces of information. This information is passed to the subconscious for processing to free up conscious space. 6. Most of our energy expenditure goes towards the brain. These discoveries have important implications. If the majority of our lives are fulfilled by the subconscious, it follows that we should try to manipulate our subconscious mind as opposed to our conscious abilities. According to Carl Jung, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Programming of the subconscious for conscious growth is the basis of affirmations and self-hypnosis for empowerment. But along with these strategies, there are other things to consider in order to create a positive mindset for growth and fulfillment. Understanding that your thoughts determine your environment and that you can command your thoughts is the first step. But committing to a daily routine of developing mental and emotional strength is something else entirely. It takes discipline, character, and patience. The idea that we can just manifest what we want is a little misguided. The fact is that you may have spent the last 30 or 40 years anti-manifesting, focusing on worry and stress, eating the wrong foods, in toxic relationships, with limiting beliefs that have been with you since childhood. These are not removed overnight. It can take years to rid yourself of certain thoughts and ideas, and you have to be constantly vigilant about what you are thinking and what you are consuming. Thankfully, there are many ways to increase your mental and emotional power, and it has never been easier to embark on a campaign of self-development than it is today with all of the resources at your disposal, especially with the internet and instant communications. We have all of the tools. We just need some willpower and determination. One basic way to build mental strength is with an exercise routine. Write out your goals and objectives and see if you can stick with them. This might seem like very basic and fundamental advice, but both diet and exercise provide valuable insights into our behavior, and they are the two foundational modalities that mental strength can be built upon. If you do not keep track of the fundamentals, you will run into difficulties later on. Trying to become a master of the mind while staring at a TV all day and eating ice cream is just not realistic. Diet and exercise can be used to build a strong character and a healthy body and mind. For mental strength, try to manipulate the environment first. In this way, you will be taking away the opportunity to fail. Manipulating the environment for mental strength will mean that you make use of the concept of minimalism as much as possible. The less information and distractions you have in general, the clearer the mind will be. So clean your room and your office, even the files on your PC. This will have a positive impact on your mental well-being. People who tend to hoard items find fresh mental energy when they let go of their many possessions and send them to the trash heap. Limit the time you spend on television and switch off your phone at night. Eliminating cable is also a good idea. Even things like making your bed in the morning and spending some time out in nature can really help to get the mind in order. Another way of describing the concept of the universe being a product of mind is that the outer reflects the inner. We can easily tell the personality of an individual by the state of his or her bedroom. It can be obsessively neat and tidy, or it can be much like a dump. Ideally, it could be neat and orderly with a few items thrown around here and there. Understanding the importance of the environment is an important discovery. It means that we can change external objects and situations that will positively reflect on our internal state, and vice versa. The destructive nature of advertising and the media becomes more important when people start to look inside and understand the power of their own thoughts. If the majority of our actions are subconscious and advertising and media are specifically aimed at manipulating our environment, then they have a large say in how we behave. Scientific data has shown that people are victims of advertising even when they view themselves as impervious. When we see something, our conscious minds might not take it in, but our subconscious most certainly does. So almost by default, we are all victims of the surrounding environment, which is aimed at subverting our actions. And it does an excellent job given that consumerism is running rampant and people are now paying nearly $1,000 for phones alone, while morals and ethics fall by the wayside. If you are serious about developing your mind, then it needs to be as clear as possible. Reduce your exposure to advertising and media where appropriate. Media is largely negative, and your subconscious mind is simply going to ingest negative material, which will be reflected in your conscious daily activities. It is never a good idea to actively seek out this negative information. Most people fool themselves into believing that they need to keep in touch with reality, which is hilarious to people who actually understand how reality operates. Don't let pointless information from advertising, the media, or other people take up valuable cognitive space by default. To limit this exposure, Once you have a good environment with a reasonable diet and regular exercise, you can investigate practices that are more directly orientated towards mental development. Remember that everything that you do is stretching the mind to some degree or another, whether it is diet, exercise, writing, or walking. But we need to use the most direct methods, and we also want to avoid patterns that do not expand the mind. The following are the best practices for you to really master your own personal psychology. If you want to proceed rapidly, then undertake one or a number of these models. How often and at what intensity you want to do these practices is up to you. Meditation should come as no surprise to anyone as the best kind of practice for mental development. It involves sitting quietly, ideally in lotus position, and observing the movements of the mind. After a period of time, the mind starts to quieten down and become less frantic. You will become less reactive to outside events and be able to monitor and control your thoughts more efficiently. The two most popular kinds of meditation are vipassana and transcendental meditation. Both of these have an extensive body of scientific literature pertaining to their benefits. There is no excuse for not instigating a regular meditation routine. It is verified by science, practiced by many high-level individuals, and has historic roots in spiritual systems. Twice a day for 20 minutes is the recommended time frame for optimal results, morning and evening. You can also consider an intense course for a week to really get started. Yoga is a practice of body movements involving the breath, concentration, balance, flexibility, and physical strength. When the movements are executed in a certain fashion, the practitioner comes into a flow state and can complete the whole hour-long routine effortlessly. The coordination of concentration, breathing, and physical exertion are perfect for subduing the mind. It is not, though this might be described as an extreme method, fasting is one of the best ways to master your mind. Food is more important to a human being than anything else. Giving up food for a significant period of time can have many benefits and takes incredible willpower. Additionally, fasting is the only thing that has been proven to increase longevity, and rats and humans perform best when they are a little hungry. There are many different kinds of fasts, such as a water fast, a dry fast, a juice fast, etc. Consider a 3-day juice fast once a month for an emotional and mental detox. Mindfulness takes many forms, and there are a wide variety of mindfulness practices. It really involves being aware at regular intervals throughout the day. Mindfulness can be combined with meditation for maximum results. In meditation, we are deeply. There are many other techniques to increase concentration. You could focus on a candle flame for 5 minutes a day. You can also focus on the top of your nose or your breath. Most spiritual practitioners recommend no longer than 10 minutes of intense concentration on anything. Coincidentally, 10 minutes is the maximum amount of time that a human being can intensely focus on anything, according to the scientific research. There are a wide variety of concentration techniques that you can make use of. Intensity. This can include painting, singing, dancing, martial arts, creating a business, or anything that you really give 100% of your mental attention towards. This is because you won't have the time to energize negative thoughts or emotions, as all of your resources are aimed towards one particular activity. This is one of the most effective ways to control the mind and remove destructive tendencies. But unless you are really passionate about something, it can be difficult to develop the concentration and willpower to see it through. This is why most people give up on their resolutions after the initial phase. There are some strategies you can use if you really want to gain control over the mind. They are designed so that you will make breakthroughs that will stand to you over the long term. Consider an 11-day silent retreat in a serene location, out in nature. During this silent retreat, you will meditate twice a day, complete a yoga routine, and stick to a vegan diet without alcohol, sugar, or processed foods. You should also be completely removed from technology during this time. You will benefit such a regime immensely for a number of reasons. You can observe the contrast from the silent retreat and the insanity and noise of the everyday environment. You can also observe the contrast when you reintroduce certain foods back into your diet. You should aim for some kind of seclusive practice too. A good metaphor is that the human mind is like a computer program. It takes in input from a variety of sources and generates output. but we are not really aware of all that we are taking in subconsciously. Most of our activity is actually governed by the subconscious as opposed to the conscious mind. According to Earl Nightingale, whatever we plant in our subconscious mind and nourish with repetition and emotion will one day become a reality. Our subconscious rules our behavior. This is a scientific fact as well as a phenomenon, documented by psychologists Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud. It has also been mentioned in ancient texts, such as the Vedas, and by spiritual scholars throughout the ages. We need to create strategies to reprogram our subconscious in ways that are more beneficial to our well-being. Our subconscious minds have picked up various tendencies from birth that are still with us today. We are also under attack, literally, with advertising that bombards our senses nearly 24/7. This includes online, where we are spending most of our lives, as well as in the physical environment, where we see billboards and items for sale in shops. We need to be very careful about what we ingest mentally, physically, and emotionally. One of the best ways to reprogram our subconscious is by using affirmations. Affirmations are an effective tool to program ourselves for personal and business success. Remember when affirming to use the present tense. I am talented or I am rich is better than I will be talented or I am going to be rich. Another point to keep in mind is that affirmations work best when the mind is in a receptive state. So affirmations should really be used first thing in the morning or late at night. Another time to repeat your affirmations is during meditation, when they can really sink in without resistance. Affirmations work, but they have to be repeated over and over to really. So our subconscious can really get the message loud and clear. For maximum results, they need to be stated, internally or out loud, during meditation, or in the waking or nighttime hours. It should also be borne in mind that some people have incredibly deep convictions with regard to love, money, or sexuality. At a fundamental level, an individual might not believe that they are unworthy of love or affection. In such instances, affirmations may, well-rooted or that it comes from somewhere deeper than the subconscious mind. Either way, combine affirmations with meditation for best results, as they do work to a large degree. If you can make your affirmations into a poem that rhymes, then your subconscious will repeat it consistently, much like how a song gets stuck in your head. This is the best procedure you can do if you have identified a limiting belief and want to get rid of it. Where possible, try to feel the affirmation as a positive emotion. This will supercharge it with energy and help it to manifest. You might want to take an online test to see where you have limiting beliefs. They may be around self-love, relationships, money, abundance, or happiness. In this instance, you can try to create several affirmations using different terms and tenses to navigate around this sticky belief more rapidly. With affirmations, it is better in general to use the present tense and to avoid negating statements such as, I am not in poverty. Just like the brain cannot distinguish between real and imaginary, it also does not understand negation. All it hears is poverty. There are other strategies you can use to program your mind. Remember that the time you are just waking and the time that you are settling down to sleep are the best times for self-programming. Meditation is another key time, but you still need to utilize the rest of the day as much as possible to put yourself into a positive state of mind. If you have a desk job, then you are stuck on a computer for 8 hours a day. You might as well make the most of it. Listen to classical music for a couple of hours a day. Binaural beats and theta brainwave entrainment tracks are available on YouTube and on other sites. Alternatively, record yourself saying empowering affirmations and listen to it for an hour. Subconsciously, the statements I am rich, I am attractive, I am intelligent are going to sink in and start to manifest in your everyday life. You could also consider lucid dreaming or seeing a therapist as a means of accessing the subconscious. There are a large number of self-programming strategies available. Just pick one or two and stick with them for a consistent length of time. Self-programming consists of two parts. The first is what you program yourself with. The second is what you are able to block out. You might be telling yourself how attractive you are, Hon. There are two major streams of thought within the psychology and spiritual sectors. People who follow the law of attraction believe that what you think gathers momentum over time and attracts more positive thoughts. If we can tune our vibration towards things that make us happy, then this momentum will increase and being happy will become easier and easier. But there are others who make an equally effective argument. Every person has a shadow side that is repressed by modern society. If this shadow side is not scrutinized and allowed to express itself, then it will continue to lurk in our subconscious, sabotaging our happiness. Whatever is within us needs to be processed and expressed in some way. It is a commonly accepted scientific principle that energy cannot be created or destroyed, but it can be transmuted. Shadow psychology was first popularized by the eminent Professor Carl Jung. The shadow is the unconscious aspect of ourselves that we cannot consciously identify with. There are actually positive aspects of the shadow side. People pleasers need to start identifying with their anger and start telling people to get lost, in no uncertain terms. But because they were brought up in such a way as to respect others and be good, they find it difficult to consciously understand that saying no to people can be immensely organic, satisfying, and natural. Instead, they take on more work than they should and end up stressed, believing that sabotaging their mental and emotional well-being is somehow a positive thing. Generally, however, the shadow exhibits negative tendencies. It contains deep fears and insecurities. It then projects these fears and insecurities onto other people. Often, people will project their own negative tendencies onto others to deal with their own pain. It is the next best thing to being able to confront it within themselves, which is far more difficult. For Jung, the best way to explore the shadow side was through dream work and symbolic analysis. The shadow was referred to as the unconscious in the works of both Sigmund Freud and Friedrich Nietzsche. The concept of shadow self has become much more popular in recent times due to the prior dominance of the law of attraction. More people than ever are involved in dream work and self-assessment questionnaires to dissolve shadow tendencies and bring the shadow self to the forefront of the conscious mind. The law of attraction makes perfect sense and does more to explain why some people are successful and others are not more than anything else. But the complete set of teachings add so much more and delve into complex situations that extend far beyond focusing on positive thoughts. Additionally, it places a new emphasis on desires and emotions. These were viewed as dirty from an Eastern spiritual perspective, where we gain much of our esoteric information from. Such distortions have convinced people that desires and emotions are somehow evil, though nothing could be further from the truth. Moreover, too much emphasis has been placed on mental thoughts, when it is the emotional vibrations that are what gives the strength to the manifestation. The law of attraction is based on feelings as opposed to thoughts, which is a completely new paradigm. Which one should I do? The good news is that there is no need for discrimination. Shadow work and a positive mindset can both easily be applied together. There is no need to side with one group against the other. This is both pointless and counterproductive. Instead, embrace the best of both worlds. You might find that doing positivity work brings up hidden shadows and that focusing on understanding the shadow works to increase your levels of positivity. A good compromise could be to do both shadow work and keep a positive psychology, but try to focus more on a positive psychology. It also helps to notice that there is a difference between ignoring something and focusing on the positive side of things. So meet your difficulties head-on and face them up front. At the same time, try to look to the future and be optimistic about what it has in store for you. Don't avoid the past and your inner demons, as this has been identified as the #1 impediment to future growth and development. Emotional avoidance is also the leading cause of unhappiness according to some experts in the field of psychology. It can be a tough line to balance between the two. But to develop a really healthy mindset, you have to focus on both. The sheer power of imagination has not been given its due in either religion, science, or spirituality. All of these seek to give the student a system of mode of operation with regard to how to live and behave. But creativity and imagination are in a league of their own and are uniquely individual practices. There is no system or structure to imagination or creative work. It can be a little difficult to describe exactly what imagination is and how it works, but it bears resemblance to meditation in terms of dissolving issues and finding solutions. Because when using the imagination, the individual is in an altered state of consciousness. There is no way to compose wonderful poetry or a breathtaking painting when the logical side of the brain is activated. Because the logical side of the brain wants to understand why each piece is placed in a certain way and wants to work sequentially, in ABC fashion. This is not how creativity works, which experiments and sees how things play out without paying attention to standard rationality. The imagination is an amazingly powerful tool when you deploy it correctly, and it can generate a large number of healing benefits. This is another argument for the law of attraction proponents. Logically, you might find that you have an unresolved issue that you need to troubleshoot. But if you are highly imaginative and channel this in the right direction towards a core passion, your issues will dissolve without further investigation. Additionally, some creative proponents assert that the imagination is a way of bringing the subconscious to the conscious. In this way, you can paint a painting or symbol about an issue that you cannot consciously identify with. You might not understand why you feel good after doing a certain piece of creative work, but it could be because it touches on inner issues that cannot be consciously analyzed or discussed. The way that the subconscious communicates is in images and metaphors, not in logic or text. This is what children often do when they play and paint. Either way, extensive use of creativity and the imagination can do wonders for self-development and mental strength. It can be hard to create a system or structure with regard to the imagination because, by its very nature, it does not conform to structures or anything approaching rational principles. The best thing that you can do is to really commit yourself to a creative. However, it is almost amazingly difficult to get people to do these simple tasks. This is because people always want to know why and reach a rational goal. But these processes will shake up your mind and open up your creative consciousness. You will gain insights from your paintings or writings along the way. In fact, you will get better results if you do not have a goal in mind with these. There are some creative strategies that you can deploy in order to trick your brain into an abundance mindset. In many ways, you can treat it like a game. The brain is used to generating worry and fear at all times in relation to money. You need to try and get around this ingrained tendency by pretending to be wealthy. The brain does not have the capacity to distinguish between real and imaginary phenomena, as demonstrated by recent scientific studies. Consider what happens when you think about your favorite food. Your body actually starts responding biologically. Your stomach will start to grumble, and you might even start salivating, despite no physical food being present. The more you think about food, the hungrier your body becomes. Likewise, the universe does not differentiate between real and imaginary, so you can use creative practices to trick yourself into thinking thoughts of wealth. Carry cash at all times. Where possible, make sure that your wallet is full of cash. It is better to have it on you physically. In the same vein, remember to tip 20% at all times. Both of these techniques have two significant effects. The first is that you will get into the mindset of someone wealthy, as you will be used to constantly having enough cash and always tipping well. The second is that other people actually view you as wealthy and start manifesting for hang out with the rich. People who are rich, i.e. an abundance mindset, are used to having wealth at all times. They don't think about poverty or bills at all. If you can affiliate yourself with these people, then their energy and beliefs will rub off on you. If you want to become the best lawyer in your area, then you need to network and associate yourself with these people, not for the knowledge, but to try and emulate their mindset that attracts legal expertise. Be grateful. Gratitude is the holy grail of manifestation. It has an advantage over manifestation because it can make you happy, while manifestations tend to be short-lived. If you can master both manifestation and gratitude, then you are really a master, because you will be manifesting what you want and already appreciative of what you have. Additionally, when you are grateful for what you have already manifested, the universe shows you more things to be grateful for, and manifestation becomes easier.